Unit 5, Part 11. Okay, we're continuing 3D from the exercises using the short truth table method to test an argument form for validity. Okay, we started with the conclusion not only because the conclusion is assigned false, but because the actual form, the actual logical form of my conclusion is a conditional, right? And so in my initial assignment, I had a conditional that's made false, and that is where I'll start because that does determine for me the truth value of my P and my T, right? These two sentential variables, and I can put these down. And what am I thinking? I'm thinking, I know for sure that if I am going to succeed in finding a counterexample, it will be one where P is true and T is false, right? If that assignment doesn't work out and I can't find a consistent assignment, then no counterexample is possible. Only possible counterexamples where P is true and T is false. Because that's the only way to make the actual conclusion false. Okay, so we filled that in. We made T. As soon as we figured out it was assigned false here, as it had to be, as we're determined to be, that means it's going to be false where else it appears, which is here and here. So we put little f's there. P has to be true everywhere, of course. So since P is true here, where else does it appear? It appears here. Put a true there and a true there. Okay. Now I reiterate. This is where I reiterate my thought that I mentioned last time. I now ask again, which sentential variables have their truth value determined, right? Necessarily determined by the move I just made. Let's look here. Okay, look at it's sort of asking you, can you satisfy these two conditions? First condition is the overall form has to be true, right? So that was the first thing we did. I'm looking for a counterexample. Counterexample is all premises have to be true, which means that the biconditional has to be true. The biconditional of S and T has to be true. The second condition I have to satisfy is the T is false, because T has to be false. It's the only way to make the conclusion false. That was where I started, right? So, is it possible for me to satisfy those conditions? That's always the question, right? Is it possible for me to satisfy these conditions? More conditions appear. Is it possible for me to satisfy them? If I get all the way through to assignment of truth values, satisfying the conditions that have arisen so far, then I have my counterexample and I can say, there it is. The argument is invalid. Yes, I can satisfy those two conditionals, making the biconditional true and keeping T false. It is possible for this biconditional to be true and that's false. And what does S have to be? S has to be false, right? That's just an application of your knowledge of the truth table for the biconditional, right? If S were true, then the biconditional would be false because T biconditional F is F, of course. Okay, so I know that S is false. That's determined for me. Boom. So you see how the thought reiterates, right? What sentential variables have their truth value determined by the move I just made? Right? In this case, this one for sure. Maybe others as well. Okay, so S is false. I know that. Boom. It's filling out. S is false means S is false here as well. Okay. Right. Let me do something else here. Let me look over here. I could look here. I could look here. It's sort of either way is fine at this stage if you work things out properly from here. But let me just go to here. Okay, what follows from this T being false, right? This T being false, that means this conjunct is false, right? Notice that R, that's undetermined as far as we know so far. We haven't given assignment to that yet, but that doesn't matter. In fact, for the determination of R doesn't really play much of a role here, given what's appeared so far, because, right, this is false, right? The conjunction here is false, whether R is true or false, right? So R's truth value doesn't matter here, because application of your knowledge of the truth table for the conjunction's only true when they're both true. And since the second conjunct is false, that's sufficient for the falsity of the conjunct. So that's false. This is the negation of the conjunction. The conjunction is false, therefore, right, this is true, right? So now I've got a biconditional of true and true, oh hey, it works, right? Now I can sort of rest easy with this second premise because the second premise has turned out to be true with the assignment of truth values that were necessary to satisfy the other conditions, like making the conclusion false. And then, well, that was it actually. I could have done that right after. I could have seen that right after this. So R is okay. I'm still free. I have a degree of freedom, as it were. I'm still free to make R whatever I need it to be. Right. If it's true, if I need to make R true, that's okay as far as this premise is concerned. I'm still on track for a counterexample, because this is already true by conditional true. But if I need to make R false, that's also fine. That also doesn't affect this premise, right? R appears here, R appears here. So whatever I need this to be, this R, I'm free to make it whatever I want. It's not going to trouble the truth value in my initial assignment for the second premise. Okay, what else we got? This overall, so that's good, that's good, that's good. We're only left with concern with the first premise. What's my frame? It's just, my thought is, I've got some assignments here, right? Q is undetermined, R is undetermined, which means they can be whatever I need them to be, right? Whatever I need them to be to do what? To make this overall premise true, consistent with the assignments that have appeared for, that have been necessitated for P and S, right? Those have to be that. But whatever I need they to be, I can make them that. That is, I can fill this out, the Q and the R, with what I need, and it looks like I'm perhaps going to get my counterexample, right? It looks good. Okay, so what follows? Okay, so it's now I have to see another way of framing the question of the first premise is, can I satisfy these three conditions? What are the conditions? Number one, the overall statement has to be true. The overall formula has to be true. Conditional has to be true. Second condition, I'm asking whether I can satisfy it or not, is that P is true, and the third one is that S is false. Can I do that? Can I keep this true? Yeah, here's a good summary of it. Can I keep the conditional true when P is true and S is false? Yes, I can, right? Let's see how it works. Well, that P is true suffices for the truth of the antecedent, right? That's just an application of the knowledge of the truth table for the disjunction. The disjunction is made true by the truth of either disjunct, or the truth of one of the disjunct is sufficient for the truth of the disjunction. So that makes that true. Doesn't matter what Q is. Q's value doesn't actually matter here in the computing for this, just as R's didn't matter here. So that's true. So what have I got? I've got, what my thought is now, I've got T, hook, question mark, right? Question mark over this wedge, and I've got a T there, and I've got a T there. That tells me that I need this to be true. Sorry, I need this disjunction to be true, right? Why? Because T hook F is actually F, whereas I need it to be T, right? Because I need to make the first premise true if I'm going to have a counterexample. So I have to have, so that means I need this to be true. It's top down. Now for that to be true, it's a disjunction, and the second disjunct is false. Can I still do it? Can I satisfy this third condition? Having S be false? Yes, I can, because I'm free, as we saw looking at this, I'm free to make R whatever I need it to be. So if, and making R true is sufficient for making this true. So if I make R true, boom, that gives me that premise as T hook T, so it does come out true. My conclusion is, I can consistently assign truth values to the sentential variables, which provide me with a counterexample, which make the premises true and the conclusion false. I've shown that I can consistently assign truth values to the sentential variables that do in fact make what my first move was, do in fact make the premises true and the conclusion false. So T, 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 F, making the premise true and the conclusion false. That was the first thing I did. But you're sort of asking, can I do this? Can I make that assignment? I've shown that I can. Notice that you've got Q undetermined, so what should you think about that? It means there's more than one counterexample, right? In writing, you could write T or F, T/F. That is, you have a counterexample when it's T, 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 F, F. You have another counterexample when it's T, F, T, F, F. Both of them, right, because we weren't necessitated into assigning a Q to get our counterexample, and we're done. Both of them are counterexamples. So what you do, if you're doing this in the exam, you provide that box and you say, write in words, this assignment of truth values makes the premises true and the conclusion false. This is a counterexample, right? So that is the short truth table method.